So listen, I sent to be what the theme would be for this week. And, last week Reverend Rose spoke about knowing God, correct? And so really that's all our job is every day, is to have a closer walk with God. And I remember as a kid thinking, yeah, whatever, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I don't want it, it's not for me. And then, of course, what happens? Life, right? Holy shift sometimes happens. And you have to be careful how you hear that, because I'm not responsible for what you hear. The word listen has the same letters as the word silent. That could be the lesson as well. Because when we get silent is when we get to listen. We get to hear the wind today. If you were outside, you might even hear people on the beach who are from the north thinking it's really still summer here at this time of year, right? So what are you making yourself available for to hear? And that means you do have to get quiet enough inside so that you can listen. Some of the words where the song of love is hard to hear as we keep passing gears, right? As we keep this speed up that we think we're supposed to do now that Christmas is over. It's like, oh my gosh, well now we have to lose weight, we have to change ourselves, and we have to get ready for Easter, right? Or first we're going to have Valentine's Day, and then, then we'll have Easter. Well, how about if we just be every day and know that we think we have time, and I'm here to say that we don't have time. So if you love someone, tell them you love them. If you love someone, spend time with those that you love, write a letter, and all of that. So I decided last year I would do that with my family of origin, and I'm 5th of 11. Enough said, right? I'm the only one who's had any therapy. And so they call me, I see the light sister. Here she comes, I've seen the light sister. And so I have to be careful on how I speak, because I speak unity. I speak the way I speak. I live the way I live every day, consciously, right? Dixie, isn't this true? It's just who you are. And so my nephew had one of his birthdays, one of my 20 nephews, nieces and nephews, and so I sent a text to one of my sisters who I really am not in communication with on a regular basis, like, hey sister, how are you? It's just kind of more of a role of letting her know that I love her. And so she was so taken aback by the text. I said, happy birthday to your baby boy, Brian. I hope you're having a good day. And she wrote back and said, please forgive me for not answering your texts. I'm not sure why you send them. You used to be my best friend, and we don't speak anymore, and I don't know why. I hope God will heal you. My little sister, 3 years younger than me, one of my little sisters, because I have 6 of them. So this little one was one that I raised. I was part of raising her. And so my response back to her was, no need to ask for forgiveness. I do my forgiveness work every day for me, because it brings me peace. I could have said, well, don't you remember when you did this and this and this? Can't we go on those tirades? And I thought, no, because she's not even going to understand. So, please, you don't have to ask for forgiveness. I do the forgiveness work for peace. I said, I miss us being friends too, and I love you. So she writes back and says, I don't know what I need forgiveness for. And again, because she's not listening, is she? She's not hearing my words because they're so foreign to her. So I said, if you want to have a talk one day, we can do that. She would want to have it over several glasses of wine, and I'll say, let's not have the wine. Let's be, just filled with our own spirit. But this is what happens when we decide to be a change in our own lives, for myself to be peaceful, that I would reach out to those in my life. It's a change that they're like, wait, what does she want? She says she loves me, right? And so the texts have stopped for now. Her birthday's coming up next week, so she'll get another one. And I just do that because I decided last year, as I'm doing this work called The Work by Byron Katie, that if I want peace, I have to be the peace, which is what this whole week was about with Martin Luther King as well, and Gandhi. as we go into the season for nonviolence. There's 64 days that starts next week, and it goes until April. Can you be the peace you want to see in the world? And Reverend Rose and I caught something on TV one of the few days that I was home this week, and it was, because of all the Oscars and everything that's going on, and it's a white slate, and so the people of color are like, excuse me, is someone colorblind in the Oscar, search team? And so Will Smith got on after his wife spoke, and he said, diversity is America's superpower. Isn't it? Like, I have freckles, and most of you don't. And so it doesn't mean that I'm better than you, it just means that I'm different from you, right? Right? And as you get older, you get freckles. They're not called freckles, though, right? They're called age spots, and some of them grow quite large. And so the thing is, and Reverend Rose and I were talking, we're like, oh my God, what did he say? And so, whatever she did to listen to it again on her TV. So diversity is America's superpower. Can we do that? Can we just say some people like donuts for hospitality and some prefer that we might have nuts or cheese or something? And it doesn't make one right and one wrong, it just makes it different. And so she said, that's what I'm going to talk about next week. I said, great, I'll make sure that I mention it for you, so everybody can come back. And it's the quote that Gandhi has out. He loved the Christian church, and he went thinking, this is great liturgy, and it's great theology, and I love it, I love it, I love it, as he was studying. And then he said he started going to churches. And so his famous quote is, I'll be a Christian when I meet one. Now, unity doesn't necessarily say that we're a Christian church in the traditional sense. We are practical Christianity. That means how do we live every day? So we're culturally Christian and spiritually unlimited, right? Because we honor the many paths to the one God. So it's a pretty profound statement, isn't it, by Gandhi? And it doesn't matter. I don't believe you have to come to a building on Sunday morning to be a good person either. You can still send your tithe. Because somehow this spiritual community will feed you, right? And how about the whole concept of Martin Luther King saying, that he hopes that as his children got older, they would be judged by the content of their character, right? And not the color of their skin. And so it's pretty amazing to have it be 2016 and we're still looking at things outside of us. And that's why this theme is going to continuously be, are you looking within to see the truth of who you are? How much time are you spending in meditation? So on February 24th, we're going to start a meditation on Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 7:30. You come, someone will be here, we will have meditation and prayer, and then you go home, and it's going to be like your midweek lift. But what Reverend Rose was thinking about is, how do we continually keep the place open enough so people can come and get fed, right? And then go out and be that in the world, because that's our job. That is our job. And it gets tough, doesn't it, as life happens? Or if we keep listening outside of us as opposed to what we're supposed to be hearing. And it just is, right? So quit arguing with reality and then say, oh, wait, maybe I didn't spend enough time in prayer today. So if we know that we are the superpower, how are we going to be that change in the world? How will we go out there and be the demonstration? So my sister, obviously, this sister, is looking for a really good fight, because then she can tell everybody in the family, oh, you won't believe what she said this time, And so my word is, don't talk about me unless I'm there, right? Because that's the triangling. Same within this community. I know you've been so successful at that. Reverend Rose says, if you have an issue, take it to the person that the issue was with, because then it stops it, doesn't it? It stops it. So there's a story about a Norwegian explorer who was trying to measure the depth of the ocean. And so the first day that he decided he was going to do this, I don't know the year, but he put his rope down from his boat and kept, how you release the rope. I'm going to pretend I know how to do that. You release the rope, and it keeps going and going and going. He runs out of rope, and he's thinking, oh, it's deeper than that. So he writes in his little journal, deeper than that. And then he goes and gets some more rope. And the next morning at the same time, so he could make sure that it was going to be accurate, he keeps, letting the rope go and go and go, gets to the end of the rope again, and he goes, it's deeper than that. writes it in his journal. And this continues on and on and on. And then he realizes, I don't know that I'm ever going to actually know the depth of the ocean. I'm not sure I have enough line, so to speak, enough rope to keep putting in. But what he did know is that it was probably beyond his ability to measure. And instead of getting all aggravated about it, he said, okay, deeper than that. And that was his final report back to whomever he was reporting. It's the same with God's love, or whatever it is that you call this greater being than us. The universe, living, loving presence. I use the word God. It took me many years to say that word. I used to just say it because I had such a bad experience as a child with the word God. We're doing this in the name of God, or whatever. So I had to unlearn all of that. So whatever you call God in your life is so huge, and it's going to be deeper than that. The longer you spend in meditation, the frequency of how you spend time in prayer, in service, is then how you continue to get filled up, so that when life throws you one of those fastballs, and if you haven't had one yet, bless you, and one probably is on its way, but I don't know that for sure. And so I'm preparing for my next fastball without fear or trepidation, but just so that whenever it hits, or maybe it's just another text from one of my sisters, then I can stand still and be in my peace. And that's what about going within is all about. As Dixie in the meditation was talking about, this time for you. And yet we get so busy, don't we? We think, well, we've got to be here on this time, and we've got to do that and that. But just like a bank account, if you don't keep making deposits, at some point you're not going to be able to take any withdrawals. Right? You get a cold, you've got to, you're down and out, whatever happens. And so how are you spending each day making sure that you're nourished, that you yourself are taking care of you? And it's what has worked for me, and in the many fastballs that I've received, is by putting God first. So I use the word what, and we've talked about that as opposed to why. What, and I can enunciate in different variations of vocal tones and things like that. What am I supposed to do? What the heck does that mean? What? And if we keep asking what, then the answers also come, because you're leaving yourself open. When we use the word why, it's a closing, because it helps us to reach a victim mentality. And we're not victims, right? Life happens, and then it happens again. So it just is, right? And how can we all have the same and yet different opinions about what life is? I said to Reverend Rose this morning as I was leaving, I said, so today is a whole new day for Karen. Yesterday was the celebration of life, and today's a whole nother onset of what loss feels like for her, because the party is over. The celebration of life party that we all had here yesterday is over. And so, and Reverend Rose said, I didn't think about that. And so continue the calls, continue the cards, continue the, hey, want to go out to lunch and all of those types of things, because her life continues now on a different level of loss. And yet, there is no loss, is there? Because what once showed up in a skin suit like we have now shows up in spirit. And certainly, can you not imagine how funny the day was with Leslie when Don's walking around knowing he can't really speak, right? Because cavemen didn't speak in that little video we watched. And so all he could do was grunt or make actions. And so those are the things that, are hidden away in the corners of our mind, as Barbara Streisand sang, right? Memories like the corners of our mind. Pull those out and be joyful that you shared Don's life. Be joyful that as we, plan to celebrate Jacinta's life, same thing, and Chaz's life. So today, celebrate with the one who's still breathing next to you. Forget about the crumbs. Forget about the aggravating socks that are left on the floor yet again, right? Or the toilet seat that's up and it should be down, or it should be down and it's up, or whatever it is. get over those little things because life happens, right? So we know that with God, the food is our spirituality and not the materiality of things, the material things. And I think Mother Nature helps us remember that with the different kinds of storms that we have, either tornadoes or floods or whatever it is. When physical possessions are lost, we get back to the truth of what it is, and that's actually the physicalness of someone remaining alive in those difficult situations. And we also don't get to have someone else be the problem with us. So I call that other-itis. Because if that person's what's wrong with me, then it's not about me, and that's why I'm crabby or cranky or whatever it is. But it's never about the other person, it's always about us. So go within, figure out, did I have enough prayer? Do I need to maybe get one of the CDs that BA has and listen to some of these great songs? And Thoreau had a quote that said, no matter what is outside of us, or beside us, or behind us, or coming, or has already been, nothing is as great as that which is within us. And obviously that's a paraphrase. And that's the truth. But we have to be able to get through all of our uckiness and sometimes yuckiness and all those other thoughts to get to the truth of who we are. So my homework for you this week is to commit to only speaking positive words. And when something negative comes out, like, oh, it's so cold, how about, thank God I'm not in New York and all that snow, or whatever town you want to choose. There's many, many towns up the East Coast, and over into Michigan and all of that. When I was walking the beach yesterday, there was this guy that had a Michigan shirt on. I said, aren't you glad you're not in Michigan? He said, I really am. It's blustery and blowing, and we got our hoods all tied around our faces. But something to be grateful for, right? Because he wasn't there shoveling snow. He was able to walk on the beach, even though it was blowing in our face. One of the quotes I was able to find was, the chief delusion of this world is we think that talk is cheap. We've heard that, haven't we? Oh, talk is cheap. But talk, the reason that that's a chief delusion is because our talk is what manifests. It starts as a thought, and then we talk it, and then what happens? It happens, doesn't it? And thankfully, not everything that we think about or speak about happens, yes? Yeah, I am grateful. Not all of my prayers are answered, especially about that one sister. No, just... And actually, she's my shero, and I told her that because she has survived many things in life that many people cannot. And she said, I don't know what that means. I said, you show me what it looks like to show up and keep living, even though you have many reasons not to want to. And she doesn't get it because she doesn't see it as a compliment, but I keep telling her that she is my shero. And then she says, what do you want from me? Nothing. I just want you to know that you're my shero. So Jesus said that if we can wake up to the words that we're speaking, then you can trace back from there how they originated in our mind, and then we can see why life sometimes shows up as it is. So not only in prayer should we use mindful words, but when we speak, always speak mindfully and prayerfully. One of the last things I want to talk about is the gentleman that created the Morse code. And I just found this story, and it's amazing that something that seemed to be so trivial ended up being such an invention for the world. His name was Morse. And he was really, not besides just Morse code, but the telegraph is what came out of his work. And in an interview, he was asked about his great work and what drove him. What was the feed in that, the urge, the speed that kept him thinking that that's what he wanted to do. And he said, may I answer you in confidence, sir? Because, of course, back in those days, they would have only been men reporters. It was before there were many awakenings. And he said, may I, answer you in confidence? And yes. He said, I prayed for light, and light came. Imagine the puzzle in the interviewer's mind, like, okay, aren't we talking about this machine and you're talking about light? But that was his answer. And he went on to say that later on, many years later, when all of the flattering honors came, he said, I never felt like I deserved them because it came through me, not because of me. Do you see the difference? How do you let God work through you as opposed to, here I am, and it's because of me, which is part of my personality, so I have to deal with that so that I keep it more like, oh, wait, what's happening through me, right? And he said, God gave the gift through me. So he said, you can imagine the excitement as the inventor prepared to send his first message on the telegraph. Does anyone know what that first message was? The exact message was, what hath God brought about? Thank you. It's something, obviously, when you heard that, you didn't ever forget it. So you see the word what. What has God brought about? Not that God's the one that causes the problems or the greatness, right? But it's the people that he uses. That's us. And because he asked for light, he knew, this telegraph guy, Morse, that God was light. So he kept asking for more light. So I'm not sure I don't ask for more light every day, but I ask for strength. I ask for hearing the right way, and for what is mine to do. So hopefully you'll come up with these questions that you can, I call them go-to places. So when life gives me one of those shifts, I go, oh, what would, and I say love do, what would God do? So the Morris man said, what hath God brought about? And do we not today have technology probably because of whatever happened back then with the telegraph, right? I suspect, I'm not a scientist, we have a teacher here who's nodding, that if we, did that whole let's do the search of life, we could see back to what that is. We can also, because I've done this with my family of origin, the way we communicate. And the only way that my family understands that they're loved is if you are talking to them. Hence the reason my sister is saying, why are you not talking to me? So I could be yelling at her, but it would be okay. And that's what is okay with her. She can yell at me, but I'm loved because she's at least talking to me. And so where the paradigm shift has happened is that I don't take that as loving anymore. And so she's thinking, boom, she's not talking to me. No, we're talking, but you're just not going to be yelling at me. Do you see the difference? So you take a stand based on love. I'm not worrying about changing her. I'm worrying about me being peaceful in the way in which I come forward, in the way in which I know the truth of who I am. Prosperous, joyous, healthy, whole, all of those things. That's how we make the shift in life. So, what hath God brought about in you today? How will life be different as we leave here this morning? Celebrating. I expect you all to be celebrating that there's no snow here, even if it's a little chilly, right? Get a cool scarf, wrap yourself up. So let us pray. Living, loving presence, thank you for the word silent that also contains the same letters as listen. For the reminders that bring us back to the truth of who we are each time we choose to get centered and to know that you are existing in us and as us, is us, and through us. Thank you for all of those whose shoulders we stand upon here at Unity of Merritt Island, for the remembering of those that we love so that the corners of our minds are lit with the joy and the happy memories. For the classes that are held here, for the teachers, for Dixie and for Leslie and for Reverend Rose, so that we can be the change we want to see in the world from within, only worried about ourselves, God. And for this gratefulness and for all that you are in and as and through us, we say thank you. We pray this in your name and after your nature and under the authority of the living, loving presence that is each of us. Thank you, God. We are grateful. Amen.